So good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today is International Remembrance Day for the Holocaust, and I would like to share my lecture about my journey in the footsteps of my family. What you see here is Stolpersteine. This is stumbling stones that we laid in honor of my great grandparents and my great aunts. And I'm going to share with you their story and our story, the story of the journey in their footsteps. Before I continue, I would like to say a few words about myself. My name is Noah Cohen-Orlov, and what I do for living, I learn and I teach digital tools and about the digital world, okay, AI and other stuff, and it connects with what I'm going to talk to you about. And this is what makes up my business, Noah Digital Instruction, in which I teach people about the digital world. So what I want to tell you here, you see this slide and you see a very unique font. This font that I used was prepared from the handwriting of Aner Shapira. Aner Shapira is an Israeli hero who was murdered on October 7th, and when he rescued other people. And this font is part of a very unique remembrance initiative in which font designers take the handwritings of people who were either murdered or fell on October 7th and since, and prepare fonts out of them. And they invite all of us to go onto the site. It's called Ot Chaim, to go to the site to learn about these people and to download the fonts and use them for free. Most of the fonts are Hebrew. Some of them are Hebrew and English, like Aner Shapira's, which is Hebrew and English. And we are all invited to use them, to download, to install them on our computers, and to use them. In my last check, it was more than 80 fonts. Okay, so please use them. Please learn about the people. I'm involved in this initiative, and it's very close to my heart. This is my grandmother, Aliza. She's the mother of my mother. These are her parents, David and Berta Bela Schwenziner. David was married to a first wife. In this journey, we learned about Ita, about his first wife. We didn't know anything about her before we started this journey. David and Ita had a daughter named Rosa. After that, I will tell you what happened to them, why they separated, and then he married my great grandmother, Berta Bela, and they had four daughters, Lena, Helena, Fanny, my grandmother, Aliza Elka, and Roli, Rachel. What you can see here, this is my family. This is my grandmother's family. So there were five daughters and parents. And what you can see here is that two of them made Aliyah to Israel. My grandmother, Aliza Elka, and her younger sister, Roli Rachel. Both of them lived in Israel, and they died as old people. Four of them were murdered in the Holocaust. My great grandparents and my two great aunts, Rosa and Lena. Fanny, okay, Fanny was born between. She's the sandwich daughter, and she died out of a disease when she was a child. So it was a lot before the Holocaust. What I'm going to tell you is what happened to them and what we found after we started our journey. My grandmother, my grandmother Aliza, she was married to my grandfather Yehuda, and my grandfather was arrested during Kristallnacht in Dresden, in Germany. He was beaten, he was tortured, he was humiliated, and he was released Why was he released? Because he was not a German citizen. Okay, and at that time they were they were keeping the rules, so they released him. He came back home. Immediately they left Germany. They went to Denmark, and then they made Aliyah to Israel as a legal immigrants. I'm not going to go into their story now. This could be a whole other lecture. But what's very interesting here, you can see their civilization documents from the British Mandate, and look at the date when they came to Israel. They arrived in Israel on September 1st, 1939, the day of the Nazi invasion into Poland. And my mother was born 4 years afterwards in Jerusalem. So my grandmother and grandfather made Aliyah with my two aunts, and then my mother was born here. So it's really like they ran in the last minute. This is the map of Europe. The Schanziner family lived in Berlin, in Germany. Aunt Rosa was sent first in the second transport from Berlin to Riga, to Latvia. And then her sister, Aunt Lena, was sent to Lublin in Poland. And then my great-grandparents were sent to Theresienstadt and died there. And when I look at this map, I have two insights. One is very personal and one is very global. The very personal one is that I think about my great-grandparents who had 5 daughters. One died when she was a child. The other two left. They escaped Germany. They made Aliyah to Israel. I don't know if they knew it, that they made it to Israel, to Palestine at the time. Then the fourth daughter is sent and disappears, and then the fifth daughter is sent and disappears. And they are left alone. They are left alone, an old couple. They're not old, they are younger than me. And I don't consider myself as old, but you will see in the photos, they look old and they were sick, they were poor, they lived in a very a poor neighborhood in Berlin, in the center of Berlin, and apparently they didn't have anyone that could help them. Okay, I don't know if how could they um, get along in this um, foreign environment. Okay, I don't know why they didn't live with the daughters who left. I will never know. I don't have anybody to answer. And I have to say that my aunts my aunts are alive. Okay, they are around 90 years old, but they don't know because in this family, like in many, many families, nobody talked. I don't know how much they knew, but for sure they didn't talk. So a lot of things we didn't know, a lot of things I tried to find out from my aunts, from my mother, from the internet, from libraries. Okay, but still there are things that I don't know. Oh, I wanted to say the other thing. I said one thing personal, and the other thing is global. When they say that the Jews were sent to the east, you just look at the map and you see the Jews were sent to the east. Okay, they were sent to Poland, to Latvia, to Czechoslovakia, and apparently the reason was that the Germans, the Nazis, did not want Jewish blood to pollute German soil. Okay, so there were no death camps in Germany. I found it out. I didn't know it. I found it out during my journey that the death camps were all established in the East. Yes, there were concentration camps in Germany, but not camps that were deliberately created and organized as death camps. These were only in the East. I'll tell you what happened to each of them and what we found out during our journey. David Berek Schanziner, my great grandfather, he was born in Warsaw, in Poland. He married Ita Ozarov, and they married on 1893 in Warsaw, in Poland. And this is a very interesting story. I have my family tree is on my heritage. MyHeritage is a website that helps you create your family tree and also helps you with your journey, with your research about genealogy, about your family roots. And one of the nice things about MyHeritage is that when you put everything that you know, you start getting suggestions. And after I put what we knew about the family, I got a message one day on my in my email that said, "We found David Shantziner in the family tree of a woman named Susan Clamp." I have no idea who she is. I don't know her, but I contacted her. This is one of the really beautiful things in MyHeritage. And I asked her, I said, "I'm interested in my great grandfather, David Shantziner. He appears in your family tree. Maybe you know anything about his first wife." Because as I said before, we didn't know anything about his first wife. And what she said is that yes, her name was Ita, and I'm going to send you their wedding certificate. We're talking about a certificate from 1893 in Warsaw. Okay, I don't remember now how she got this certificate. Um, my journey started in 2012, so in the beginning I didn't document everything. So I'm very sorry that I don't remember how, if she sent it to me or she sent me a link. Anyhow, I got a wedding certificate in Polish from 1893 with the help of a friend that you will meet later. She translated it into Hebrew, and then we know her name, and we know when they got married. We also know that my great grandfather lived when he got married. He lived in Mila 20, Warsaw. We know Mila Street, right? It's the rival where was the main headquarters of the rival in 1943. It was in Mila 18, and he lived in Mila 20 a lot before, way before in the 19th century. After we found out about Ita, what was her name, I wondered what happened to her, why they got married. Did she die? Did they separate? Did they got divorced? And if they got divorced, why did the little girl that they had go with her father? Okay, I'm sure that it was not usual at the times. And I was talking to Tatiana. You will hear this name a lot. On the phone, she is in Berlin. I'm in Israel. And I asked her, I wonder what happened to Ita. And she said, you know what? I have an idea. And she says the amazing sentence, I'm going to send an email to the old Jewish cemetery of Warsaw. The old Jewish cemetery in Warsaw has email. Okay, this was pretty shocking for me. And I don't know, maybe an hour later, I had a photo of the gravestone in the Jewish cemetery of Warsaw with all the information. And then that's how we know that she passed away on June 1900. And this explains why the little daughter, who was 4 years old at the time, went with her father. So that's how we learned about Ita. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you, except that I think it's an interesting story, is to give ideas to people how you can research, how can you find information about your family. So we know Rosa was born on 1896, and then we know he got widowed on 1900, and then we know that he emigrated to Berlin. We don't know yet, as of now, when did he do that? Okay, and I'm saying yet because our journey continues. I'm continuing researching. I don't have much time, but maybe when I'll be 90, I'll have enough time to continue with the research. He married Berta Bela Nee Holman. We don't know where and when. This is still to be found. We know they resided in a specific address, 5 Gormanstrasse in Berlin. It's important. I will get back to it later. The birth of the 4 daughters from 1904 to 1908. And we know that he was either a doorman or a gardener in the Jewish cemetery. At other times, he was working as a worker in a cigarette factory. And how do we know it? Address books from Berlin from 1905, 1910, they present the occupation of the household head. Okay, and of course it's the man. Nobody says what did the woman do, but that's how we know what did he do. He was deported at the elderly transport on August 42 to Theresienstadt. The elderly transport was when the Nazis in 1942, they concentrated many older people from around Berlin into the Jewish elderly home. They concentrated them there and took them from there to Theresienstadt. It was in August 42, and he died a year later, okay, in the Hebrew month of Elul in September 1943 in Theresienstadt. And I keep saying that they were murdered in the Holocaust. I refuse to say that they died or they passed away or they perished because it was not a natural disaster. Okay? He died out of typhus. Okay? If he would have been at home with regular living, apparently he would not have been have died. Okay? So I relate to it as a murder. This is a document we got from Bet Theresienstadt, which is a museum in Israel to Theresienstadt. And we got this document for him and for my great grandmother. And I received it, I saw something very interesting. I saw that there is a coffin number. Coffin to someone who is a Holocaust victim. Okay, it sounds like a very big luck to have a coffin. And I said, okay, if there is a coffin, maybe there is a cemetery in Theresienstadt. And if so, maybe we can go and pay respect and visit the grave. And I called the Theresian house, and they said, calm down. Okay, in Hebrew, teragi. Yes, there was a coffin. There was a funeral, Jewish funeral, but this coffin was used again and again and again and again. Okay, so the bodies were cremated, and so there is no cemetery. There is nothing that we can visit. Berta Bela Pentziner, who was born in Kovno, in Russia, in 1882. Her parents were Eli and Michal. Think about that. We're talking about her parents lived in the 19th century, and their names were Eli and Michal. Okay, if you get a hunch for names, you know these are Israeli names, Israeli modern names. And to think that these are names from then, it was pretty shocking for me. And my aunt's name is Esther Michla. We never knew what the Michla was. And now I think it's Esther Michal. But nobody could imagine that the name of the great grandmother was Michal. Okay, so I think that's why they changed it to Michal. She emigrated to Berlin. I don't know when she did it. I don't even know if maybe they met in Warsaw, maybe they met in Kovno, maybe I don't know where they got married. I didn't find it yet. So we know she married David. We know she lived in the same address. She was deported with him, and she died after him. She died on Nisan 14th, 1944. Nisan 14th, Nisan is the name of the Hebrew month. Nisan 14th is Passover. Is the day before the Leila Seder, okay? The first night of Passover, which is so meaningful for us. And I think about myself in the eve of Passover with all the houses clean and with the guests and with everything is festive and clean and nice. And we are all feeling very good. And where was she? Who was with her? How did she feel? She also died of typhus. So again, I think I should call it murder, not died. Rosa Shantziner. Rosa Shantziner, the daughter of David and his first wife, Ita. She was born in 1896 in Warsaw. He was single, maybe divorced. We don't know. My aunts, they think they heard something that she got married and then got divorced. I didn't find any testimony of this. We know she was a maid. We know she resided in the same address with them. Okay, and again, it's important. I promise I'll say why it's important. She was deported in the second transport from Berlin to Riga in Latvia, and she was murdered in the Rumbula massacre or in a Dschungelhof camp. What's the maybe? What's the maybe here? So when I tried to find out what happened to her, and I have to say that it came from my aunt who asked me, please find out what happened to my aunts, to her aunts, which are my great aunts. And I know that we had pages of testimony. Pages of testimony is something everybody can put in Yad Vashem. Okay, the Holocaust Remembrance Museum in Israel, the main museum, Holocaust museum in Israel. You can put there pages of testimony that tell what you know about people who were murdered in the Holocaust. And my grandfather filled those pages of testimony for all four of them. But what he wrote about Rosa and Lena is that they died in 42 in Riga. That's it. And my aunt asked me, I want to know what happened. I want to know when, I want to know where, I want to know what happened. So I started looking out. I looked in the internet. I searched the internet, and I found a site that's called Find a Grave. Find a Grave, if you write it in Google, you will find a website that is a database for graves. You can put a name and check if this website has its a gravestone or any information about their death. They will tell you where she's buried or where did she die. And I found her name there. I found her name, and her name appeared in a memorial in Rumbula Forest. Now, what happened in the Rumbula massacre is that this second transport from Berlin went on November 29th, November 27th of 1941. 3 days drove to Riga, Latvia. It arrived there on Shabbat morning, and then the train stood for another whole day. And you know what are these journeys in those trains, what it means 3 days in the train, and then another whole day in the train, November, end of November, beginning of December of 1941, pretty cold. And what happened there is that the plan was to take the Jews from the Riga ghetto, make them walk to the Rumbula forest, which is a few kilometers from the city, and to shoot them into pits. Okay? And then to take the Jews from Berlin, those 1,000 Jews that were sent from Berlin, put them in the ghetto, let them work for some time, and then kill them as well. But something in this plan did not work because the Jews from the ghetto were not evacuated. So that's why they stayed on this train this train station near the forest for a whole day. And then on Sunday morning, the commander of this train decided that he's not waiting anymore. He took those 1,000 Jews to the forest. They took their clothes off. They took everything they had off. They had to run between two rows of Nazi soldiers and locals from Riga, Latvia, who spitted, who shouted, who beat, everything they did. And then they shoot them into those pits, and every row had to push the previous row so they will have room, and then they were waiting for the shooting. So this is what happened, and then a week after, the Jews from the Riga ghetto were also murdered in the same way. So it's the 1,000 and then 24,000 Jews of Riga, 25,000 people were shot in those two incidents in the beginning of December 41, and it's one of the big massacres before the final solution. It's Babi Yar and Rumbula Forest. After some time, I found out information about her, that she died in Jungerhof concentration camp, which is a few kilometers away. And I didn't understand why she appears in two places. So I contacted the person who uploaded information onto the Find a Grave website. His nickname is the Birded Graver. Okay, I will show you a photo in a few minutes. And I asked him, "What do you think? Why there is more than one version?" And he said that the memorial in Rumbula has the names of everybody who was on this train from Berlin. So we know she was on this train, but maybe she ran away. Maybe she escaped through a little window in those train cars, and we know this happened. And then maybe she escaped, and afterwards she was caught and then brought to this other concentration camp and died there. So I don't have a final answer, but when I found out this information, I called my aunt and I said, "Ruti, you wanted information? I know when, I know where. We have Yortzeit. Yortzeit, for those of you who are not familiar with the phrase, it's the day when someone died." So this is about Rosa. This is the memorial that is located in Rumbula. It was created by the governments of Israel, United States, and Latvia for all the victims of this massacre. Lena Shantziner, Lena or Helena, she was the reason why we started this journey. Besides what I said about my aunt's wish to know what happened to them, we wanted to join a unique project, the Stolpersteine, which I'm going to tell you about. And we couldn't join it because they didn't find Lena. Lena did not appear in any of their documents. We had the pages of testimony, but it was not enough for them. And the reason why they didn't find her, because we knew that she was born on November 4th, 1904. This is this is the date on the page of testimony that my grandfather put in Yad Vashem. But eventually we found out that she was born 3 days earlier on November 1st. That was one reason why they didn't find her. And the second reason was that apparently she was married. Nobody in the family knew about it. Apparently it was a fake marriage. And only after we found out, because I'll show you, she apparently married Heinz Lozinski. And after we found this information, my aunt said, "You know what? Maybe I do remember when I was a child, there were talks like silent talks in the family about her fake wedding and that the husband escaped from the country. And so that's why they couldn't find her." She was apparently a clerk at the Palestine office. The Palestine office was the office that took care of the certificates to Israel, Palestine at the time. Maybe she could arrange a certificate for herself. Maybe she could arrange a certificate for her parents, for her sister. I will never know why she didn't do it, or maybe she couldn't. She resided in a different address from the other three, from my grandparents and from Rosa. She lived apparently with her husband, or maybe after he escaped, she lived in a different address, and I'm going to get back to it. She was deported on Shabbat Hagadol. Shabbat Hagadol is the weekend before Pesach, on March 42. She was sent to Lublin in Poland, and we don't know exactly what happened to her because she is listed as missing in Travniki, Travniki concentration camp in Poland. That's what we know. Okay, we don't know anything more than that. So this is the family that I'm telling you about. What is the Stolpersteine project? Stolpersteine is the biggest decentralized memorial to the Holocaust. Gunther Demnig is a German artist. non-Jewish German artist who wanted to create a very, very, very large memorial to the Holocaust victims, but that will be very personal. And the way he found to create it both very big and very personal is to create a stone for each person. On each stone, the stone is made of concrete, the cover is made of brass, and in the brass instilled letters handmade. Each stone is handmade. It has name of someone who was deported by the Nazis. It has its year of birth, when he was deported, and if known where and when he was murdered. The stone that you see right now, I have it in my home. I received it so I can show it in my face-to-face lectures. And it's for Judith Nelhans, who was less than 1 year old. She was murdered in Auschwitz. And the reason why I got this stone is because it has a typo. There is an extra H, an H that shouldn't be there. And her family members asked that it will be corrected. And that's how this stone is not used. And I want to tell you that in one of my lectures in um, um, house for a sheltered house in Jerusalem, when I showed it, I see that there is some, talking in the audience. And at the end of my lecture, two people come to me and they say, you know what? It's our cousin. And we are those who asked to correct the name. So thanks to us, you have the stone. Okay? They wanted the stone, but I was very, very firm about no, no. I got it for the lectures and I cannot give it up, and they agreed. So these are the stone. The stone is located in the sidewalk. In bricks from the sidewalks are taken out, and this stone is instilled inside the sidewalk, the same height of the sidewalk. And when people go, they don't stumble. It's called stumble stones or Stolpersteine, but they don't really fall because it's the same height. But they feel the different texture. So when they feel the different texture under their shoes, they look down and they pay respect to the person who's memorized there, and they see the name. I'm not arguing with you about that the fact that people are walking over those names, and it was a big argument. Okay, there was a big discussion in Jewish communities in Europe that did not agree that those stones will be installed because they said it's not respectful to let people walk over those people. Okay, um, again, I'm not defending the artist. Okay, what I know that we decided to join this project. The stones are located almost all around Europe. Okay, you can see there are little islands, but in Europe, in Britain, in Italy, in France, even in Argentina. There are also stones in Argentina. And what I want to tell you is that when I gave this lecture to my son's class, one of the kids asked, what about North Africa? Why are there no stones in North Africa? Okay, we know that the Holocaust arrived there. We know people were murdered by the Nazis there, concentration camps. And it happened this way that at the same evening, Gunter Demnig came for a lecture in Tel Aviv. And I was there. And I asked him. And what he said is that we are waiting for families or for residents of localities to ask for stones to be installed. We want the pressure to come from bottom. So it will be grassroots. Why? Because if we have to do it through the authorities and the municipalities, it will be much, much harder. If the families will ask for it, or people who reside in those addresses where Jews were deported from, it will be much easier. This was his answer. I also asked him about why putting the stones where people are walking over them. And what he said, he gave one technical reason and one an ideological reason. The technical reason was that if the stone is put in the sidewalk is public. If you get the agreement of this municipality, you can put stones in all around the city, all around the village, all around the town. If you want to put it in the wall, you will have to get the agreement of each and every building. And of course, there will be less stones this way. So this was his technical answer. The other answer was what I said before, that when people have to look down, they pay respect. Okay, they have to notice the person and they have to pay respect. More than 16,000 stones were laid, 1,900 locations, Europe and Argentine, in 31 countries. Okay, if anybody wants, I can give you the names of the countries, and also if you click, okay, if you click the map in the presentation, and I'm going to share it with everybody who registered, you will be able to go to the website. Also, in this presentation, I will give you all the links to the things I'm talking about. So, we wanted to join the Stolpersteine project, but there were many, many obstacles. First obstacle was that they didn't find Lena because of the birth date and because of the name. And then me and Tatiana was a volunteer at the time of the Stolpersteine project in the region of Berlin where we had to lay the stones. And she helped me. She searched for Lena, I searched for Lena, and on the same day, both of us found Lena. We found the difference of the 3 days, and we found that she was married, and they agreed to let her put the stone with the other. The second problem was that her address was different. Okay, I said again, address is important, address is important. The Stolpersteine stones are always put in front of the building from which the person was deported. So if she was deported from another address, her stone should be in another place. But we didn't want that. We wanted all of them to be put together. It's not to be buried, but their stones to be together. And again, it was difficult, and they agreed. Third obstacle was that we had to wait. Gunther Demnig insists on putting each stone by himself. We're talking about more than 100,000 stones all around Europe. And he goes by himself. He's not a young man. He goes and he lays the stones by himself. I heard from someone that today it's not him. He have people who help him. Okay, when we had it, it was him. So the waiting list was 3 years. We had it in 2013. We were waiting until 2016. And then when the time arrived, they say, okay, we have a date for you. It was on a Shabbat, on a Saturday. My family is religious. We're Shabbat observant. And it was clear that if it's on Shabbat, we cannot go. So we asked if they can change the date. But we are talking, first of all, about Yekes. If you know what Yeke is, okay? German Jews, and also German as I know it's a stigma, okay? But we know that they are very strict, order, everything is in order, and to change plans, this is something very difficult, especially if you have 5 ceremonies at the same day on the same area, and the next day you are maybe in Latvia or in France or in Britain. So changing was really something very difficult, but they agreed. They agreed, they changed it 2 days earlier. In 2016, we had a date for laying the Stolpersteine. Before I continue with the obstacles, okay, a little break. The good people we met on our way. Matanya and Roni. Matanya, or Tatiana, was a non-Jewish German woman who got really interested into the Holocaust. She started to learn about the Holocaust as a teenager after she read Sarah's Key. If you heard about this book, she read Sarah's Key and she started learning about the Holocaust. Eventually, she even put a Stolpersteine by herself in the house that she got into. She found out who lived there before. She found that the Jews were deported from there, and she laid the Stolperstein for them. She then became a volunteer for this project, and that's why we were connected. She became my sister. We really connected. Next to her is Ronnie. Ronnie was at the time her life partner from Tel Aviv, who met her when he came to put Stolpersteine for his great aunt. They became a couple. With no relevance to that, Matanya Tatiana converted to Judaism. Not only her, but her two teenager son and girl. Okay, can you imagine that? They decided to follow her and convert to Judaism. And 2 weeks before she finalized the conversion, she found out that apparently she's a Jew. She found out that her great grandmother, for her mothers, was sent to the camps with all the Jews in a specific location. No documents. She's still looking for that, but apparently she's Jewish. And she's older than me in 4 days. Okay, so we connected. Really, it's I don't have a word for that. And she helped us with so many things during the way, paving our way to the ceremony, to laying the Stolpersteine to Berlin. Susan Clamp. Susan Clamp is the English woman who gave me the wedding certificate for my great grandfather and his first wife. I don't know her, okay, but she gave me something very important. This is the bearded graver, whose very unique hobby is to travel around Europe and take photos of graveyards, cemeteries, memorials, and upload them to Find a Grave website. Okay? You will admit that it's a very strange hobby. And he's the one I contacted and I asked, what about Rosa? Why do we have the two versions? Shai and Tammy Zuckerman, a lovely couple from Israel who moved to Germany, to Berlin, to the building where we laid the Stolpersteine 2 months before we arrived. They came for Tammy's work, and and they were amazing. As soon as they heard the story on that day when we came there, they they clicked. They clicked with that. And Shai was at home, and he wanted us to come and eat and come for restroom. And he came down. He was with us all the ceremony, and he called his wife. And really, since then, they are the keepers of our stones. Okay, I'm going back to the obstacles. Okay, traveling to Berlin. 3 little words, but very, very complicated. Why? We don't go to Berlin. We don't go to Germany in my family. We don't buy a German pencil. We don't buy a German car. And if the seller will say it's very good quality, it's from Germany, we'll say thank you very much. Please show me something else. My mother, my mother tongue is German. But when she had to wait in Germany, in Frankfurt, between two flights, a German cop came to her and talked to her in German. She said, not that I didn't want to answer him, I couldn't answer him in German. She froze, okay, only because the need to talk in German. So in my family, German is something very, very problematic. My aunt, who you can see here, who from the second from the left, she went to skiing in Switzerland, and the whole group that they went with landed in Germany and crossed the border. She and my uncle, they landed in Switzerland, and they made a very, very, very long way to this skiing site, just not to be in Germany, not even for 1 second. Okay, so I'm giving you the background. So how can we travel to Germany? I was the first one who said, I have to go. I said, I'm going. Everybody who wants to join me, please do. I think it's important to pay the respect. Okay, I want to be there in this ceremony. My aunt Ruti, you see on the left, she was the first to say, I'm coming. Her husband was supposed to come with her, but he couldn't for medical reasons. So her son, my cousin Ronnie, he joined us. My mother on the right, my late mother, it was very difficult for her to decide to come. For months, she didn't know what to do. She didn't want to go to Germany, but she felt that she couldn't miss this ceremony and this travel. Eventually, she decided to join us. In the beginning, we thought that we were going for a few hours. We didn't want to sleep in a German hotel. We didn't want to buy anything. We didn't want to eat. We didn't want nothing, not tourism, not shopping, just to go to the ceremony, to go to the grave of the Fanny, the daughter who's buried in Berlin, and that's it. For logistical reasons, we found out that we cannot do it. So we came for a day and a half. We landed on a Wednesday at 11 a.m. and we departed on Thursday at 10 p.m. And what we did, I'll show you in a moment. But yes, we decided to go. I will say that a few days before the travel, I read a book by Emunah Elon that's called The House on Many Waters, Bait al Mayim Rabim in Hebrew. And it's an amazing book that tells about the Holocaust through the eyes of an Israeli writer who was a baby at the Holocaust. And I read it, and I was saying to myself, why are you going back there? Why are you going back to Germany? Now, what do I mean back? My mother was born in Israel. My father is a fourth generation in Israel. What do I mean back? But my feeling was a Jew that goes back to Germany. Okay, which could be a house on many waters. Okay, which could be very, very dangerous. Okay, but we decided to go. And what we did, this is the first day, we decided that we will only go to places that are either related to the Holocaust or to our family. And on the second day, we will only have the ceremony and we'll go to Fanny's grave and that's it. Okay, I'm not going to tell you about all the places we visited, only about a few that were very, very meaningful for me. So the first place was the Rosenstrasse Women's Protest. I learned about this story only when during our visit to Berlin. And it's a very interesting story about Jewish men and women who were married to non-Jews. Until a specific stage in the war, the Nazis did not do anything to them. Okay, they could keep living even if they were arrested. They were released. Okay, if you were married to an Aryan, to a non-Jew, you were protected. But during this time, the Nazis put a lot of pressure on the Aryan side of the couple to get divorced. Okay, now if you got divorced, if you're an Aryan, you got divorced, you know that you send your partner, your life partner, to death. You know that. Okay. What we heard from our guide in this tour is that I'm sorry, men, is that Aryan men gave up not very, but they gave up more than women, more than Aryan women. Aryan women insisted on staying with their partner because they knew what will happen to him if they divorced from him. And I want to tell you about a book I read afterwards, which I really recommend. It's called The Wounded Heart, My Wounded Heart. My Wounded Heart tells about a couple. He's a Aryan, he's non-Jew, she's Jewish, both of them are doctors. And the Nazis put a lot of pressure on the man to get divorced from his wife. Eventually he does it, and she's murdered in Auschwitz. This book is important not only because the story of this unique family, but because of the process. What I saw there is the process in which the Nazis convinced a whole nation that Jews are not really humans. The Jews are subhumans. And you see the process, how it goes all around 360 degrees around you in education, in culture, in media, what you can do and more what you cannot do. And then your neighbors, your clients, your suppliers, your friends, everybody is convinced not to be in touch with you. What happened is that at a specific stage in the war, the Nazis decided that that's it. Okay, no more privileges for Jews who are married to non-Jews. They arrested thousands of Jewish men. They put them in the Jewish community house in Rosenstrasse, okay, in the Roses Street in Berlin. And they ordered a train that will come and take them from there to the east. One day, the wife of one of them, who is non-Jewish, comes to this place with a pan and pot, and she starts bending pots and pans, okay, making a lot of noise. And it really disturbs the Gestapo men who are posting in the near this place. But she does it anyway, and she's non-Jewish. Okay, they don't do anything to her. The next day, it's two women, and the other day it's 10 women, 100 women. Some versions talk about hundreds, other versions talk about thousands of women are doing a protest in the middle of Berlin, okay, in the middle of the Holocaust, in the middle of World War II. The mayor or the head of the Nazi party in Berlin at the time was Goebbels. Okay, and if he was the head of the Nazi party in Berlin at that time, he was the mayor, even if it was not his formal title. And still, those brave women did this protest. What you see here is a memorial to these women. It's located on a very big area near this house of the Jewish community. You can see here the woman tries to get to her man who is arrested. Another part of this memorial shows the union after they are released. I didn't finish the story. The train arrived. The men were put on the train. They were taken to the east. Because of this protest, in the middle of the way, the train made a U-turn. The train came back to Berlin, and those men were released. Many of them survived, some of them died anyhow. So here you can see after they came back and released, so this is the reunion between a wife and her husband. This memorial is full of Jewish symbols. This symbol was unique, especially for me. My ex-husband is a Cohen, okay? And what you see here is what the Kohanim do when they put their hands during the prayer and they bless the people of Israel. What I showed you was in this area. Everything that I showed was in this area. All of these statues are part of this memorial. On the other side, you can see this bench. Okay, this bench of stone. It looks as if it's not related to the memorial. On this bench, a man sits from stone, made of stone, and he's very, very relaxed. And he looks with his eyes half open, and he doesn't look to the statues, he looks to the side. And if I thought of coming and sitting next to him, after I understood that it's part of the memorial, and it's actually the artist is talking about the Germans that look to the side, the German that kept their eyes closed and looked to the side. Okay, so it's definitely part of the memorial. You can see here on the right side of the photo, you can see my cousin Ronnie, where he walks, and the place that he walks to is this place, which is exactly where the first synagogue in Berlin was located. And he went there to pray. Okay, it was time for mincha, for one of the prayers, and he went there. And you can see on the ground there are the signs of the old walls and the old, you can see here, this is the door, like the opening. And this is a way that we found in other places in Berlin where the authorities want to commemorate something, to still remember it, but not to let it disturb what's going on this area. They just leave the marks on the ground. Okay, so we knew this is the synagogue. You went there and prayed. The other place that was really meaningful for me is the empty library at Babel Square. The Babel Square in the Humboldt University in the Faculty of Law is where the books were burnt. Okay, on May 33, you know, the big burning, they went into the university's library, they took out all the books that were written by Jews and burned them right here where we see. In the corners of this square, you can see this sign, and it said it was a prelude only. There where you burn books, you end up burning people too. And it was not written after burning those books. It was written by Heinrich Heine in 1820. I only then understood that this saying, we think that it was written after the burning of the books in 1933. No, it happened much before, and apparently there were book burning much before 1820. So this sign appears in all four corners of the square. And in this square, in this amazingly large square, you see this memorial by the Israeli artist Micha Ullman, and he created the empty library. You can see the boot of our guide. So this is the land, and downwards he created those empty shelves. And of course, he wanted to show all the books that could have been there and all the books that could have been in the world if not for this burn. And also, you can see it's part of the clouds. And his idea was this reflective site. He wanted to reflect all the books that could have been created on the shoulders of those books that were burnt, to show how big is a treasure that the world lost because of this burn. The third place that I'm going to tell you about is Track 17, Grunewald Station. It looks as if it's nothing. It's an old train station. It's not used. There is nothing here except for what you can see here is names of transports, details of transports all along the way for both sides of the rail. And this is the place where Jews from Berlin were sent. So we came here and we knew that my great grandparents and my great aunts stood here. They were brought here. They were taken from here to the east. It's located in a very quiet and peaceful neighborhood, and it was the same back then. So when they say that they didn't see, they didn't know, they didn't notice, a little hard to believe. We found all three transports, the details about Aunt Rosa, Aunt Lena, and great grandparents David and Berta, and it was very hard for us to go away. Really, we stood and stood and stood and just we stood where they were, where they stood. And then my mom called me. She asked me to look at one of the transport details. It's from June 16, 1943, from Berlin to Theresienstadt. My mother was born in June 14th, 1943, 2 days before that in Jerusalem. Okay, when you say by a hair's breadth, this is what you mean. Okay, they're very thin line. If her parents would have stayed in Germany, could have been her. I'm going to the next day. This was the first day. I'm going to the next day. This is Gormanstrasse 5. This is the address where they lived. If you look where the arrow is you still can see the original house. Of course, it was refurnished. It was I lost the word, innovated. It was renovated, and it looks new. But you can see the old house, and this is where the Stolpersteine are going to be laid. When we came there, we saw on the porch our Tatiana Matania is standing with someone. We didn't know who it was. And now we know it's Shai Zuckerman. Okay? This guy from the couple who moved into this building 2 months before the event. And they started talking. And since then, I said he clicked with us and he was with us all the time. When we organized the visit, they told us not to bring a flag. They said you're going to stand in the street. It's a very lively street in the center of Berlin. You know, anti-Semitism and bringing an Israeli flag and stand with it in a ceremony, it's not a good idea. My cousin heard about it in the morning of the ceremony. He said, no, this is not possible. He took a piece of paper and just drew the Israeli flag and he held it during the ceremony. What you see below that is they offered us to put a memento, a message, a souvenir under the Stolpersteine, under those stones. And we decided to bring a photo of the family. It was taken 3 years before the ceremony in a big family reunion. Of course, today we are many, many, many more. Okay. And on the side, on the right side, you can see soil from Israel and Israeli flag and the Israeli emblem. And all of them were put under each of the stones, like a message from future generations to past generations. And I didn't know it, but someone explained to me that in funerals abroad, if you can, you try to put some soil into the grave from Israel in Jewish funerals. So it was not a funeral, but it definitely made it feel like a funeral. What I'm showing you here is laying the Stolpersteine. This is Gunther Demnig, that at the time installed each and every stone by himself. You can see that he took out some bricks. Now he put the souvenirs or the mementos that we brought under the stones. Then he will put the stones. And after that, he will make sure everything will be on the same height. People will not fall, okay, from stumbling upon the stones. After he finishes, he cleans it. He cleans the stones. And each of the people that came with him, each of them comes and cleans again. It was something, a very emotional and a very gentle gesture. Each of them comes and cleans and wipes it. And his wife is the main volunteer. His wife is with him in the project. You will see her in a moment. She's also one of the people who clean. Also, there is Matania, our volunteer, another volunteer, and Shai Zuckerman, of course. And when I met Gunther in Tel Aviv, I went to his wife and I said, you know what? They told us that Gunther does not talk. They said, don't bring any presents, don't talk to him. He doesn't smile, he doesn't talk. He comes, he lays the stones and he walks away. This is his wife. And she said to me, he doesn't talk, he doesn't stop talking. Okay, so it was not true what they told us. It was very moving, really a very emotional meeting, but they didn't stay for a ceremony. He laid the stones and then they went. In the ceremony, when we got organized, when we planned the visit, I checked on Google Maps to see if there are synagogues around the place where we're going, and I wrote letters to those synagogues. I said maybe I'll find out where my great grandfather was praying. Okay, so no, I didn't find anything like that. But from one of the synagogues, Adas Israel, I received a letter saying that no, everything, all the documents were burnt. But when they heard why we come, they say if you give us the date, maybe our leader, maybe our rabbi will come. And this is Rabbi Dr. Moshe Mario Offenberg, and you will meet him soon. It was definitely, he came and he gave us a very nice surprise. This is right after the ceremony. You can see we are standing, my cousin from the left, my aunt, me and my mom, Matania, Tatiana, and Shai Zuckerman. And we're standing, you can see the stones. These are the stones with memorial candles, which we brought, and the photos. We wanted to put the photos on the wall, okay? I will tell you soon what happened to them. You can also see little real stones that Matania came to Tel Aviv to visit Ronnie, and she brought with her back these little 4 stones. And if you know what we do when you go to a Jewish cemetery, we leave stones, okay, to mark that we were there. So she brought it there, and we put them on the stones. I'm going to show you 3 minutes recording from the ceremony. It's very short, it's very low quality. I hope you forgive me.
אתם יודעים שזו סביבה יהודית כאן. ופה היה נהוג, אני לא יודע את זה מעצמי, אבל מאבא שלי, היה נהוג לשמוע בחודש הזה בבוקר קריאות שופר.
It's 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah.
נכון? אנחנו, אחרי שחרית, אנחנו בחודש אלול, אנחנו תוקעים בשרת. חשבתי אם אתם מסכימים להחזיר קצת מהפים לכם, לתת כבוד. אני אופיע את השלב.
שתהיה שנה טובה.
זה הדגל. אנחנו פה גם בתור בני משפחה. וגם ואולי בעיקר בתור עם ישראל שקם מהשואה והגיע לארץ ישראל. והתפילות היום דווקא פה היו מיוחדות. להבין את הברכה הראשונה, תפילת עמידה. הוא מביא גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. אל מלא רחמים, שוכן במרומים, אמצא מנוחה נכונה על כנפי השכינה, וינוחו בשלום על משכבם, ונאמר אמן.
הגענו לכאן מישראל, מדינת היהודים. כן, בטח קשה לכם להאמין, אבל יש מדינה ליהודים. היא ממשלה יהודית וצבא יהודי חזק. עם הספר פורח ומשגשג בארצו הישנה חדשה. מאוחר מדי בשבילכם, אבל חשבנו שתרצו לדעת שיש לכם נכדים, נינים, חימשים ובני חימושים שחיים ומקימים משפחות במדינת היהודים. הנאצים ניסו להשמיד את המשפחה שלנו, אבל לא הצליחו. הנה ראו, הבאנו לכם תמונה כמעט עדכנית של השבט. לשכנים בגורמנשטרסה ומסביב, אנחנו מבקשים שתזכרו. להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון ירושלים. הגדיל אדוני לעשות עמנו היינו שמחים.
We're talking about September 2016. It were the first days of Facebook Live. And I'm digital, I'm into it, so immediately I jumped on it and we broadcasted the ceremony. So people around the globe, in Israel or in other places, joined us. Of course, they lit candles and they were really with us. I'm not going to read this, but this is a song that my ex-husband wrote right after the ceremony. And we got it as we were going in the cemetery that we are going to from this ceremony. If you want, I really recommend. He really managed to catch everything that was happening on this ceremony. They told us that we can bring candles and we can bring photos, but you should know that the next morning the workers will come and take out the cleaning workers will come and take out everything. What you see here is a month after the ceremony. Shai and Tammy hung up the photos on the wall. They left candles, and only when the winds of the winter came, this is when the photos were taken away. To me, it was very moving. See that none of the neighbors took it away. It's not a nice um, memory. It's not something you want to see, and still nobody touched it. And since then, these are Tammy and Shai's children. You can see here where they put the flowers and candles in Kristallnacht date and in Jewish Holocaust Remembrance Day and International Remembrance Day. And these are photos that they sent us during the years. And you can see on the photo on the right, it's a children, German kindergarten walks there every day, and because of the flowers and the candles, they stopped, and the teacher said something. How she explained it, and I don't know, but I know that they some awareness, something. From the ceremony, we went to Weissensee Cemetery. We knew that Fanny, okay, one of the daughters that died as a child from disease, we didn't know what she died of, when she died, where is she buried? We didn't know anything. So I asked Matanya if she can help us with that. It's not her job. Okay, she was a volunteer anyway, but it's not a job. She was supposed to help us lay the Stolpersteine, to help us find someone who died on the 1919. But still, she did it. And she found a gravestone. And one day I get in my email photo of the gravestone. Funny. Before Roni and Matanya cleaned it and after they cleaned it. Okay, so we went to Weissensee. She died on 1919. We came there on 2016, 97 years afterwards. Maybe we were the first ones to visit there. Okay, we don't know. We don't know if anybody was there in the funeral. We don't know if anybody came there afterwards. We know that we came there. The entrance to this cemetery is very, very impressive. It's the biggest Jewish cemetery in Europe. And what you see here is before the war. It was not touched. Almost was not touched. Why wasn't it touched? The story says that the Nazis were afraid of the golem. You remember the golem from Prague? Okay, from the Maharad from Prague? They were told that if they will get it, the golem is inside Jewish cemeteries, and if they go in, he might harm them. So they didn't come in, they shut in. They didn't come in. And many Jews hid here. Okay, you see here, it's like a little house. There were Jews who lived here during the war. So you can see the shooting, but the Jews were safe here until when? Until the end of the war when the Red Army, okay, the Russian army was on its way to Berlin. Then the Nazi army had to decide who they are more afraid of, the Red Army or the Golem, and they decided to go into the cemetery. But they only harmed the first part of the cemetery, most of it is intact. Okay, so you can see here those
No,
very.
your sound is broken.
Okay, I'll try to fix it. Thank you. For others, it's also broken.
It seems so.
Yes, it's
Okay.
broken.
Okay, let's try this. I hope it's better. No, good. Thank you, Tammy. Okay, so you see all of those impressive houses, okay? And then now you see Fanny's gravestone, okay? This is in the very old part of the cemetery. It's 1919. And we walked 3 hours together from the entrance to this place, 3 hours of walking. And this is the gravestone after it was cleaned. And here you can see the gravestone before it was cleaned. You can see it here. Now, Ronnie and Matanya, what they got when they tried to find this grave, they they were told it's a lot. Okay, it's a lot that goes. Okay, it goes from here to here to here to here, all around this, and it could be anywhere. It could be here or here or here or here, anywhere. And they say that they went there and they immediately saw the graves. Immediately. Okay? And so it's one of the really many little miracles that we had along the way. So they cleaned it and they gave us a map. Even with a map, it was not easy to find the place. But this is before they cleaned it. This is after they cleaned it. And of course, we had a memorial there. Again, it was broadcasted to whoever wanted to join us. I love this photo especially. My aunt is looking at her aunt grave, who she didn't know. Not only that she didn't know, she didn't know about her. The name Fanny was not talking about. Was not talked about. Nobody said it. My mother, who is the younger of the three daughters, she remembered that her mother was talking to her about Fanny. But then they got to know her a little, a little. At least they know when she died, when she was buried, and we came to visit her. Before we left, I asked my cousin to stand near the grave, and I took a photo with the names of the lots. So if anybody wants to come and visit, it will be easier for them. Thanks to this Stolperstein project, we got a lot. I'm saying this for anybody who wonders, is it a good idea to join this project? We got a trip to Berlin, which for me was a unique moment in life. It was very, very important and meaningful to my family. To my family. 1 minute. Identity, to my Jewish identity, to my Zionist identity. Really, it made everything very, very clear. This 1 day and a half travel to Berlin. Right after we came back to Israel, we had a reunion of the big family, and this was the first time that I told the story of this journey. The names, the Shantziner name, which was not known. In my family, nobody knew about this name. Today, my sons and my brothers and my siblings' children, everybody knows the name. They're heard, and even you heard them, which is so meaningful for me and a good opportunity to say thank you for joining me. The lecture, Shofar in Berlin lecture, which was built out of this journey. And today I give it in Hebrew and English, in Zoom or face-to-face, everywhere. Wherever someone is willing to listen to me, I'm coming and telling the story. I try to give tips to others. And after every lecture, someone comes and consults with me and someone goes, I don't know if she's here, but Miriam laid Stolpersteine for her family. They went there, the whole big family, to lay Stolpersteine for her family members. And she said this happened after she heard my lecture. And it's really so important for me. Getting to know Matanya and Roni, my sister, the family connections. I was also always I was very in touch and bonded to my aunts. But we have another layer in this bonding, which is very, very meaningful. Getting to know Tammy and Shai, that became really good friends. And having going through this journey, I asked my mom everything I could ask. And when she passed away, I can tell myself there were no questions that I wanted to ask and I didn't ask. And if I have one recommendation for you, talk to people, ask them, um, ask for questions, okay, whenever you can, as long as you can. and I really, really recommend it. One death of honor that I have is to Ronnie and Matanya, who brought this Holocaust train car to Netanya. It stands on right near to the beach, near Yad Labanim house, and groups come there for activities, ceremonies. It arrived in Israel in 2013. It arrived to the Ashdod seaport, and a group of Harley Davidson riders escorted it from Ashdod to Netanya, and you can see it in YouTube. There is the photo, the video is there, and on the right photo you can see them coming to visit the train car. And so really I want to say thank you to Ronnie and Matanya, who are doing good things all the time. They are trying to do good things. I promised you that I will have in the presentation all the links and the books, how to be in touch with me, the books that I mentioned, the films that I mentioned, and Shofar in Berlin, the journey continues. We didn't finish it. It really continues. If you want to see the presentation, you can scan this barcode, or I'm going to send it to you tomorrow. Tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Okay, so no worries. It will arrive to you. Thank you very much. Thank you for being with me. And I'm going to stop share. And if you have any questions or comments, I'm with you. You can open your mics and ask.
I just want to say that I enjoyed listening to the story of your family and getting to know better about your origins. Thank you for this.
Thank you so much, Tammy, for being here and for being with me. Thank you, everybody. I will be in touch with you, and I hope we meet again. Goodbye. Goodbye. Never again.